Good day, all our grade 10 young geographers out there, and welcome to our revision, geography revision for term 3 and term 4 today. Now, when we look at our term 3 and our term 4 work, remember term 3 would be the population, and term 4 would be the water resources. Usually, you score quite good marks in this section. But our idea is to revise everything that you can even do much better with this part of the work as well. Now, as usual, as we usually do, we will also integrate some of the map work if possible, and show you how the content and the map work really are related to each other, and how not only relate, but how they form a close relationship and integration. And this is the way that you must prepare yourself always. I always say, always prepare yourself in a geography. When you study with your map work in mind. So, okay, so without further ado, let us have a look at what we're going to do. As I said, we're going to look at two sections. We're first going to do the grade term 3 revision, the population. So let's just start off with that. Let's see what will be the topics. Now, obviously, grade 10s, it's not possible to do, I mean, it's 2 quarters work. Obviously, it's not possible to cover everything. So what I have selected for you are the most important topics, and topics that you struggle with. Okay, so let's have a look at the topics that we are going to do in our population. Firstly, we're going to have a look at population distribution and density. Then we are going to have a look at population structure. And then after that, thirdly, population growth. And then population movements. So, okay, so the first topic in our population deals with distribution and density. And what's very important now, grade 10s, please, concepts. You know, when we have a look at our grade 12 exams, and after the grade 12 exams, we usually issue a report. And then there's one thing that's always mentioned in the reports, that the candidates do not really know the concepts. They don't know how to use the concepts. They don't know how to define them, and they don't know how to apply them. So it would be a fantastic idea that now that you are in grade 10, that you see that you are in a position to do that. I mean, then you can then the grade 12 will be as easy as pie. And then you know, please just study your concepts. Get to know. Now you get in the habit of always thinking in terms of concepts, not only to define them but also to apply them. Okay, so the first two concepts that we are going to have a look at will be population distribution and population density. Please, if you look at these concepts, it seems if it's about the same, closely related, but please don't get mixed up with them. Let's have a look at them. The first one is population distribution. This describes where people live or how they are spread out. Now, if you look at this, each of these dots represent 4,000 people, and immediately you can see where people live, and that is distribution, where people live. Now, when we look at population density, then we get a total different thing. So let us have a look at what is population density. Population density is the number of people living in a particular area expressed as people per square kilometers. So in other words, if you look at your population density, people will say that, okay, here we've got about 400 people per square kilometer. I know in Gauteng it's about 500 people per square kilometer, right? You can get 100 people per square kilometer. So please, grade 10s, don't get mixed up with the first one, distribution, where they live, and the second one, density, has to do with the amount of people, total number of people per square kilometers. Now, what's very important is that, let's see what it looks like on a world scale as well. Here you've got, again, your population distribution. 1 dot equals here 100,000 people in this case, and immediately you can see where people live. where you see lots of white spots, no dots, very few dots. Look at there, for instance. There you see the Sahara Desert, and immediately know. People don't live in deserts. Even Australia, who consists of so many deserts, most of the people live here along the coast here in Australia, right? So it's important that you must know where people live. Now, if you look at population density, again the same definition here: the number of people living in a particular area expressed as people per square kilometers. Okay, so this is what we've got here, and this is very important. Look at this map here. You will see when you see black here, more people more than 200 people per square kilometer. Right? If you see this very dotted ones there, then you'll see, for instance, less than one. Look at here. Of course, it's very cold there, too cold, so people don't live there. So that is why we've got less people per square kilometer there. Okay, so that would be our population distribution and density. Now, I've brought an interesting slide here to share with you. Now, if you have a look at this slide, grade 12s, this is a slide taken from satellite during the evening and while the lights are on. Now, just have a look at this. Now, immediately you can see, here we've got North America, and if you look at the USA, immediately you can see that more people live towards the eastern side of the USA. And if you look here, for instance, here's a mountain range. No people live there. Look at this dry desert. Look at this, no lights there. Here we've got tropical climate, the disease. And of course, look at this, all the lights on here, the lights here. This means that there would be enough water, there would be enough resources, and there would perhaps be a few economic factors, all contribute for people staying in this area. Just an interesting one, just to show you that even the lights, you don't need dots on a map. All you need to do is switch on the lights, and you immediately will see where people live. Interesting. So the next one is, but why? Why do people choose to live in certain areas? And we are going to have a look now at the factors that affect population distribution and density. Now, there are 8 of them. So let us have a look at each of these factors. The first one, vegetation. Right? Now, when there's a lack of vegetation, of course, you will have less people. Because if there's a lack of vegetation, you can't have grazing for the animals, right? So you will have a sparse population or less people staying there. Now, water. Now, of course, water is the most important resource for us. People will always settle close to water. Now, when we get to our second part of our revision today, we're going to have a look at water resources. Then immediately you'll see the connection between this that we're doing now and that we're going to do later on. Okay, so people settle near a water source. As they say, water is life. We can't do without that. Then climate. Now, when I'm busy explaining these, sharing these factors with you, grade 10s, keep those maps that I've showed you in mind, right? Even the one of the lights, and see if you can some way make a connection with all these stuff. If you can remember, you will see the climate. Right? Then you will notice. You would have noticed that the lights, no lights in the desert. You would have noticed no lights in countries or islands closer to the polar regions. Reason, therefore, is that people prefer moderate climate. It must not be too dry, or it must not be too cold. Right. The fourth one, soil. Of course, fertile soil will attract people. Right? Now, if you've got fertile soil, you've got food. Okay, so that is why people are attracted to fertile soil. The fifth one, relief. Now, relief is interesting. If you've got a mountain, I'm sure if you have a mountain close to you, all you have to do is look around you. And just see how many people you live, settlements you get on top of a mountain, for how many houses? Very, very few, if any. All right? Most of them are concentrated in the valley, because there's where the things are. You'll get your water in the valley. You get your vegetation. You get the climate. You get all these things that you need. You will get in the valley. And of course, the gradient, the slope, of course, is much more gentle there. The next one, resources. People live where minerals are found. Now, if you should look at the map of South Africa, for instance, especially those days when we had gold and all these things, and people went there to get some money. And usually there's work, and therefore people are attracted to that, coming later on to all these pull factors and all this type of stuff. But just bear it in mind so long that people live where minerals are found. And then history, of course. Colonialism and wars, it influences location. Years ago, when it was the colonialism, now the wars going on in the world at the moment, people are fleeing. And that definitely, of course, if you look at the Ukraine situation at the moment and you see how the people fleeing the country and what's going on, then immediately you'll see that this has a huge impact on the distribution and the density of a population. All right, economic. Now, economic advantages also attract people. People will go there where they can earn money, where they can make a living for themselves, and that's very important for them. Now, if you have a look at these facts, great things, you must be able to describe each of these facts. You must know these facts. You must be able to say the influence of these facts, whether you'll have a large population or you'll have a sparse population, or if your density will be high or low. These are the factors that you must know. Now, you can get in the exams, you can get the map that I've showed you, all those maps, and they can put a few letters there and they say, what is it, population density and all those type of stuff, and why, for instance, and they put A or B there in the desert, and of course you must be able to identify it as a dry area. So please make sure that you know these, but more importantly, that you must be able to apply it also. And one of the applications that you must be able to do is on your topographic map. Now, you know that question 3 in the new structure of the exams, this deals with map work, and this is a type of question that you can expect there. That the question can be, but why are here so few settlements here? Why don't we see human activity here? Right now, the possible factors that can play a role would be water, climate, soil, relief, and resources. And immediately you would see that, have a look at this non-perennial river. In other words, there's not a permanent source of water. That's where you don't get settlements or human activity here. There's a marsh. Nobody can live there. Look at this. Here we've got a mountain. The mountain is not only high, but look at the contours close to each other. That means it's steep. Now, grade 10, I hope you saw what I was doing. To answer, if you need to answer this, you need to know your map work. You need to know your contours, right? You need to know the key of the topographic map. Otherwise, you wouldn't have recognized the non-perennial rivers. You wouldn't have been in a position to recognize the marsh here, right? So, as I've said in the beginning, when you study always with your map work in mind. Okay, so this, what we've done now, is you'll see it was just an application of the factors that I've just done in the previous slide, right? So I've just showed you now how to apply these factors on your topographic map. Okay, so following one section or topic would be population structure. Very, very important. Right, now, the first thing that you must know is but what is population structure? Of course, otherwise you won't know how to study the thing. Now, population structure refers to the age and the gender of the inhabitants of a country. The age and the gender of the inhabitants of a country. Now, before we get there, I would like to share with you the population indicators. Very important concepts. And you must be able to apply these concepts onto your population structure, as well as the next section that we're going to move to, that will be your population pyramid. So these are very important things. Right, so let's have a look at the population indicators. We've got birth rate, we've got death rate, we've got life expectancy, fertility rate, and natural increase. These are the 5 population indicators. So let's just have a look. What is it all about? Sorry. The first one, birth rate. The birth rate is the number of births per 1,000 per year. Now, grade 10s, let me just make myself very clear. You must be able to define these things fully. If you write, for instance, if they ask you in the exams, define birth rate, and you just say the number of births, it's wrong. You're not going to get your mark, right? Because you can't just go and go to wherever you live, town or city, wherever you live, and count all the births and say that's the birth rate. It doesn't work that way, right? You must say the following. You must say it's the number of births per 1,000 per year, right? Per 1,000 people per year. Right. So now you will be able to exactly establish your birth rate. Exactly the same with the death rate. Let's have a look at the death rate here. The number of deaths per 1,000 per year is exactly the same. The only word that has been replaced here was that deaths has been replaced here with births. So again, it's the number of deaths. That's not birth rate. It's the death rate. It's the number of deaths per 1,000 people per year. So that is very important that you must know that. Now, the next one is life expectancy. That's the average number of years a person can expect to live. Now, of course, 100 to 300 years ago, we didn't have the medical facilities as we have now. And people would have died of disease. Imagine something that hit us last year, something like COVID. I mean, even in the previous generations, we also had these pandemics, and people didn't have the medical support that we have today. So the life expectancy is much higher than it was a few hundred years ago. Your fertility rate, again, the average number of children for each woman of childbearing age. And then the natural increase, your natural increase, that is your birth rate minus your death rate. In other words, if you've got, say, 200 people being born per 1,000 per year, right? And you've got, say, 150 that pass away. This means that there's 50 left, and that will be a positive 50. So it's just your birth rate minus the death rate that will give you your natural increase of your population. So grade 10s, just to summarize this all and show you the importance of this. Please see that you know how to define all these things. You must know all these things because, as I said, concepts, definitions, all of them will be in your exams. I would just like to mention now also that you will receive a booklet also of this revision that I'm busy with you. All these things are in the booklet, plus exercises and activities for you to do. So if you really you must have a look at that booklet, and please do all the activities. It will just help you. And don't worry, all these things that I'm doing with you today appear in the booklet. Okay, so that is the population indicators. Now, an interesting thing that we are going to have a look now is a population pyramid. Now, when you think pyramid, you immediately think Egypt, right? You know, these triangular pyramids that we get there, and that is where the name actually comes from. But just before I show you and explain to you what the population pyramid is, let's have a look at this that we've got here. Now, what we've got here is a very interesting slide. It shows you how the different population pyramids of different countries look like. Right, here we've got Pakistan's one, right? Here we've got Nigeria, one of Bangladesh, and just see how it changed. The Russian Federation, Mexico, that is what China's one look like, right? And India. Now, what we are going to have a look at now, Great Things, is basically there are two types of pyramids. There are more, but I'm going to do the two most important ones and see what it looks like and the factors that influence on the pyramids. Okay, so let's have a look at firstly now, but what is a population pyramid? What is a population pyramid? Now here we've got one here. So what you must know is the following, Great Things. A population pyramid shows the distribution of population according to age and gender. If you can remember when we had a look at what is population structure, can you remember? It has to do with the age and the gender of a population. So here, when you do pyramids, you are actually applying structure graphically. And that graph is called a population pyramid. Okay, so let's see what it else says. There are three very important things that you must bear in mind when you are busy with population pyramids. Okay, let's see what are they. Firstly, you can see the different age groups. Now, what a pyramid looks like is that we've got these age groups here, 0 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, and so forth, right up to 75 to 79, and then 80 plus. Right. Now, that's very important. These are called your age groups. Right. So each one of these levels of your population pyramid represents a certain age group. Very important that you must see that. The second thing that you must see is that we've got the males on the left-hand side, and here we've got the females on the right-hand side, right? And here we've got the north line going down here, and the percentage of the population, 02468, that will be female, and this 02468, those would be the males. So the other thing that you must notice is that your younger ages at the bottom of the pyramid. Let's have a look at this. So here you see the younger ages here at the bottom, right? And of course, at the higher you go, the more narrow the age groups become. Only in certain pyramids. So if you have a broad base, like in this case, then you must know, but here you've got a lot of births. In other words, here's no sign of family planning in this population pyramid. These are the types of questions that you must be able to answer. Right, so let's have a look at the different type of population pyramids. And as I said, I'm only going to have a look at two of them. Right, the first one would be the symmetrical one, and this one would be what we call a bell-shaped one. And immediately you see, but here's a huge difference between the two. Now, let us have a look at the differences and the factors that cause the differences. And this that I'm telling you now, these are the things that you must use as your argument when these things are asked you in exams. So, let's have a look at this. So, this one here, this is a symmetrical one. You'll see it has a broad base, right? That means it's a high birth rate that we've got here. Now look at this one. Here's a narrow base, right? So this means there's a low birth rate. So this means that here in this case, we have planned families. And that is why it's so much less. Just have a look here. Look at this base here. 8%, up to 8% of 0 to 4 years old. But look at this one, less than 4. In other words, 50%, half of this pyramid, right, will be your 0 to 4 age group. And that has significant influence, of course, on the country and planning of the country when it comes to age groups. Okay, let's see the other one. Here we've got less older people with a high death rate, and look at this one. Immediately, Look at the top one. So you can see this one is much more broad than this one, right? So this means that here are much less old people than here. You can even look at the last three age groups. Look at that. So look at how narrow that is, right? In comparison with these three age groups. Now, what does that tell you? Firstly, it tells you that the death rate here is much higher than there. But the most important thing that it tells you is that in the one country, you've got better medical facilities. And that is why people can live longer. That is why when you have a look at this great things, you will see that this one is a developing country, and that one would be a developed country where you've got your excellent medical services, and people can live longer there. So this great things, this is the basis of your population pyramids. Now, as I've said, you must be able to apply questions on these population pyramids. In fact, I would like to say that please don't expect a population pyramid in your exams. Don't be surprised. Please don't be surprised if you see one. I think that the population grade 10 examination without a population pyramid is no grade 10 examination. So see that you know what's going on here. Right, so what we've done now is I've brought here just an example of a question regarding population pyramids. Now this same question appears in the revision booklet that will be at your schools shortly. This is very important. Try to answer these questions that you can be prepared. Let's have a look at the questions. These questions are, of course, based on this population pyramid here. The first question there is, what is a population pyramid? And, of course, you must be in a position to define it. Again, grade 10s, it's a concept, right? You know, there are so many concepts in population geography. Please see that you know them. Right, so a population pyramid is a pyramid that shows the distribution of the population according to age and gender. Then identify the type of pyramid, and immediately you will say that's symmetrical. How do I know that? Because the base is still very, very broad. Right. Then expect a question that you must be able to read off certain things on this population pyramid. Can ask you anything. Ask you amount, percentage males, or percentage females, or whatever. So I've included this one. Yeah, what is the percentage of females in the age group 10 to 14 years? And then you will see there's my age group 10 to 14 years. And if I must read it, then you will see it's just touches just a little bit less than 6. So we will accept between 5.8 and 5.9% for the percentage of females. Then, does this type of pyramid represent a developed or a developing country? Of course, you must know now that when you look at the developing country, you need a much narrower base than this one. So this would definitely be a developing country. They can even ask you to give examples of such a country. I've just put two there, Argentina and Nigeria. You know, especially with South American, African countries, it would look something like that. Then account for the large percentage of young dependent people in the pyramid. Now, here, there's a young dependent. In other words, look at this, all broad bases up to here, right? So here's a lot of young dependent people in the pyramid, and of course, it will they be there because of the high birth rates. Grade 10s, this is a typical exam question paper question, all right? I'm working through a few of these questions with you that you can really see what it's all about when it comes to all of these concepts. Now, this would be our population structure. Please, grade 10s, when you are busy with population structure, please, when you study the integrators, birth rates, death rates, all those things, study it with your population pyramid in mind. Because that is the place where that is actually the source where your questions will come from in the exams. They're not going to ask direct questions of this. You must know your work, and you must be able to apply all those things on these population pyramids that we've tried to show you here. Okay, so that brings us to an end of population structure. The following thing that we're going to have a look at, grade 10s, would be population growth. Now, population growth is very, very important. All right? Expect a question of population growth. Now, you know now, definitely a pyramid must be asked. Population structure is in. Population growth is just as important. Right? In fact, all these 4 topics that I have chosen are typical examination, popular examination topics for you. Right. So let's have a look at population growth. Now, what we've got here is an interesting diagram here that shows you the world population growth over time. Now, before I have a look at this, we must know what is population growth. It is the increase in the number of people, all right? And can you remember, just see how these things come back, these population indicators. Here we're talking again about birth rate and death rate. If you don't know what it is, you won't be able to understand growth. Why? Because growth is the difference between your birth rate and your death rate. So please see that you know that indicators. Now, right, so what is your growth rate? It can only grow when your birth rate, of course, is more than your death rate. So your growth rate equals your birth rate minus your death rate. And the result of this everything would be overpopulation. Now, let me refer you to the graph. Now, this is a very interesting graph. I love this graph that we've got here. Here we've got the world population in billions, and this, of course, will be the years a year. Now, and what they've done here, why I love this graph so much, is they have shown the growth by means of the globe, the Earth. Have a look at that. And they just show you, remember, this is not the globe or the Earth becoming bigger, but the population. So, in 1974, 4 billion people. 1987, 5 billion. Right? 1999, 6 billion. 2012, 7 billion. And within 2027, few years from now, there will be 8 billion. We're now on 7. And then in 2046, there will be 9 billion. So this is called overpopulation or the population explosion, right? And you must know, but why is it? What happened? How is it possible that this has happened? How could and what's interesting here? You can look at the diagram in the booklet as well. Just look at how the years became, the gap between the years became smaller for every billion added. All right? Now, I've read an interesting article that the population growth, we've actually done a good job bringing the families down significantly. All right, to average of 2 something person per family at the moment. And at the moment we have reached the curve already, turning curve. But we won't see it. We will only see it, the impact thereof will really only be felt 100 years from now on. But at least we are on the turning point. Right, so this is the world population growth over time. Now, the question now is, but what is overpopulation? What is overpopulation? And this is a very, very important part of the work that I am going to share with you now. Now, let's have a look at overpopulation. Firstly, you must know the concept. Again, grade 10, concepts. Now, if you have a look at our Earth here, it shows you, here we've got the Earth, too many people. So overpopulation occurs when a population is so dense that it causes overcrowding, the depletion of resources, and the deterioration of the environment. You know, great things. Many, I mean, you also perhaps crossed your mind, but what's the issue? A lot of people, I mean, what's the impact? And here you see what it is. It has to do with the depletion of resources, firstly. The reason, you know, the more people we have on Earth, the quicker we are actually going to use up the resources that we've got here, available here on Earth. So that's the problem. So we cannot have too many people on Earth. The second one is, of course, the environment. All right? There's one thing, we've got a lot of people. I mean, look at things like pollution. All right? Why pollution? Why has pollution gone up like that? Because we've got more people. We need more production. We need more industrial activities causing the pollution. We need more cars to travel. So that's the problem. The problem has to do not only with the amount of people there, the problem has to do with what is happening because of that. So let's have a look at that. So the reasons why is the Earth becoming overpopulated? Because there's an improvement in technology, food production, and in medical care. And all these things contribute to a lower death rate. You see again our concept there? Death rate. Okay? So you must know, a very popular question in the exam is, why is the world overpopulated? Usually for 2 to 3 facts that you must give them. Right? So see that you are in a position to answer this. Usually they give you a graph, your teacher will give you a graph, the graphs that I showed you. In our booklet there's also an interesting graph showing you how the population has grown, and it shows you also the reasons for that. Right? But it also shows you the results. Right? What is the effect of this? And this is very important. Have a look at this. If you have too many people, you have not got enough food. If you have too many people, later on you're not going to have enough space. And if you've got a lot of people, you need more facilities. Whether it's school, whether it's hospital, whether it's infrastructure, housing, you need more stuff. And all those stuff, when you need it, you know what happens? You've got to clear the natural environment to build those stuff. And that's the problem. In other words, we are changing our world from a natural to an unnatural environment because there are so many people on Earth. So please, people, make sure that you know these stuff. But not only that you know these stuff, great things. You know, this part of the syllabus isn't there for you to be tested alone. This part of the syllabus is also there to make you aware of the role that you must play in your environment. The role that you must play when it comes to your family size one day. You are grade 10 now. You are going to have a family one day. Right? And if you have one, you can't have, like my father, for instance, they were 7 brothers. 7 in one family, plus a mother and a father. We are only 2. So immediately you see the family has come down from 7 to 2 people. And so this part, grade 10s, please don't regard this only as geography that you must go study to pass. It is also, what are you going to do in the world to change the world? All right? So please, people, don't only study this thing, please live these facts that we are also trying to show you here. And then, of course, a strain on the economy. The last. Why a strain? Because all these stuff, people, cost money. You needed, for instance, one hospital to service entire town, right? Now you need 3-4 hospitals. I take it where I come from. I come from Paarl. When I was at high school, when I was your age, there was one hospital in Paarl. Now, you can go count. You count them, you'll see there are at least 3-4 hospitals there. All right? Why? Because the population increased. And another thing, straight on the economy, because this stuff costs money. Okay? So it's very important. Again, I would come back to this thing, great things. Remember, what we're doing now is not geography. Also has to do with your impact on your environment. Okay, now, if you look at this overpopulation, the question is, but how can we manage it? What can be done to manage overpopulation? Let's have a look. The first thing has to do with education. And if you look at this, great things, you'll see that most of these things has been done in South Africa. But there are certain parts in the world where people haven't heard about this. So let's have a look at this. Firstly, education. Okay? People should be informed of the benefits of a small family. And that results in an improved standard of living. You know, I would have, like I've mentioned to you, the example of my family, I would have liked to see my father's parents bringing up 7 children now. You know, it's totally impossible. It costs a lot of money. So if you've you have 2 children, of course, it will be improved in your standard of living. Then empowering women, and this is very important. It's August now, we're in the month of women, and still in the world, you still sometimes in South Africa as well, women are often forced to marry, and they are denied the basic rights of a human being, and these things must be restored. All right, they mustn't be forced; they must do it by choice. And I know there's a huge drive to give women these rights all over the world. Whether it's successful, I still question mark it. I think we're moving too slow in that direction, and we can only save all these things by doing this to the women. Okay, and of course, women must be empowered to make their own choices regarding everything. Okay, so please, people, you girls out there, you've got to educate yourself. You've got to know what's going on. You've got to be able to go over and share that with your children one day. Please, that's very important for we as men also to see that these things are being done to our women out there. And then the last one, how do you manage overpopulation, will be government policies. Now, government policies, financial rewards for one child. In China, they had this one child per family drive. Now, it wasn't a question that you will be punished or fined or whatever if you've got one child, but if you had one child, then those child would get everything from the government, free university, free education, and all those type of stuff. All right. So the one child policy has helped China to stabilize their population. If they didn't have that, I really don't know what China would have looked like today. With their something like 1.8, 1.9 billion people that they've got them. And then government policies with regard to free abortions and free family planning, that the government must also play their role there. Now, if you ever look at this, great things, it's a very popular question that they give you a graph, and they say, okay, you must interpret the graph, you must apply your birth rates, your death rates. I've shown you already how to do that, right? You must know what to do there. And then the question will be, of course, how to manage population. Now, geography is a subject of management. We've had discussions already where we showed you that 2 questions. What is the impact on the environment, and how can it be managed? Those are two key questions in geography. And when it comes to population geography, those two key questions come up over and over and over again. And I promise you, grade 10s, in your exams, when it comes to population geography, any one of those topics, right, expect a question, what is the impact, for 3 or 4 marks, or even a paragraph type of question, right? Or how can it be managed, right? Two very important questions, especially for your paragraph type questions. Okay, so that concludes this section of population growth. We are going to look at something now called population movements. Population movements. Now, firstly, when it comes to population movements, you will have to know what are population movements. What is a population movement? So here you see people packing up and they're leaving somewhere. Now, let's see what is a population movement. Is when people move from a place where they live to go and live in a different place. That is a population movement. So you know this is also called migration. People are on the move. Population movements. Right. Now, the question is, why do they move? What causes them to move? Now, the things that cause them to move are things that attract them or things that force them to move. Now, those that attract them are called pull factors. And those factors that they force them to move are called push factors. Now, generally, let's just have a look. I'm coming back to this again. Your push factors, for instance, unemployment or few jobs, right? There could be war. I've mentioned that already. What about famine? What about natural disasters? And then people decide, I'm going to leave. I'm going to move to a different or a better place, but I don't want to stay here anymore. But it could also be attraction, pull factors, like better health care, like job opportunities, education, and safety. Now, I'm coming back to this again because I'm going to do an example of one population movement to show you how these push and pull factors can be applied onto this specific population movement. But let's have a look at the types of population movement. Now, the first type of population movement would be a voluntary movement. That is when you move without being forced to move. You want to move because you want to, not because you must. Then it's called a voluntary movement. Then you have your forced movement. Of course, that is when you are facing danger or death. And I've already shown you the example of the Ukraine war going on at the moment, how people are moving because they are facing danger or death. Then emigration, right? Emigration means leaving your country to live in another country. Emigration. Then you emigrate. And you also get immigration when you settle into a new country. And then, of course, the rural-urban migration, the move from rural to urban areas. And I'm going to have a look at rural-urban migration as an example of population movements. Now, grade 10's rural-urban migration is the most important migration, right? And I'm going to do this in detail with you because you know what? It's going to come up in grade 12 again. Then you're going to look at rural-urban migration in much more detail than we are doing now. But I think it will be a good idea that you already know what it's all about, right? And get a good idea. Study this rural-urban migration. Prepare it for this examination coming up grade 10. As I said, in grade 12, definitely this will be, don't be surprised if this will be in your grade 12 exams within the next 2 years. Grade 12 isn't that far when you are going to sit for your grade 12 exams. Okay, so let's have a look at rural-urban migration. The first thing that you must know is what is rural urban migration. That is the movement. Remember, you were busy with population movement. This is the movement of people from the rural areas to the cities, to the urban areas, right? So this is the movement. And here you see you've got your pull factors. Can you remember that? In the cities or the urban areas, that actually attracts people like a magnet nearly. But then you also have your push factors, where people are forced to move. Now, when I show you these push and pull factors, it will be basically the same as we've looked a few slides ago. Now, so let's see what are the push and pull factors when it comes to rural-urban migration. Yeah, remember these are the urban areas. You're living in farms, all right? And what can happen here in your rural areas? Now, why do people leave? Firstly, because of mechanization. You know, a few 100 years there weren't something like tractors, and people had to take a spade and had to dig. Now the farmer uses one tractor plow and there he goes. This means that 20 people needed to do that job aren't needed anymore. They become unemployed. Any kind of mechanization. I just used that now as an example. And mechanization is not going to stop, great things. Every year you see something else where mechanization is when machines replace the work of people. So please bear that in mind. So now because a machine is doing the job, this guy must move to the city. How about low salaries? What about droughts? You have droughts there in your rural area, on your farm or whatever, and when suddenly the farmer realizes, but he can't make a living anymore. He will have to go to the city and look for a different type of job there. So droughts, crime. Think about the farm murders here in South Africa, for instance, right? And then, of course, unemployment, that I can link to mechanization there. Now, all these are the push factors. In other words, it forces people to move from your rural area to your urban area. But remember, in your urban area, there are things that attract you. Let's have a look at that. First, of course, the better jobs. You've got better salaries there. You've got better education facilities there. I mean, you won't find a university or a college in a farming area. Some of them don't even have high schools, right? Medical facilities, which will be much better. And then, of course, the bright lights of the city. Now, we're just calling it the bright lights. We're talking about the entertainment that you're getting in the city. You young people, we know what I mean. And people are attracted to this, and then they decide to move to cities. Now, remember what I've said in the previous topic. I said, remember, geography is a subject of impact and money management as well, especially when it comes to human geography, right? And even in the previous few topics, we saw things with regard to what is the impact and how can it be managed. Now, let's have a look. Look at this, what's happening here. Now, if people continue to move to the urban areas, what's going to happen here in the rural areas? You're going to get the following: empty farmhouses, crime that I've mentioned already, unemployment, few new investments, many old people. The shops closed because they haven't got any clients anymore. Empty schools that just stand empty because the parents have moved to an urban area rather attend the schools there. So that will be the impact on rural areas, but it also has an impact on climate, on urban areas. Let's have a look at that. Crime in the urban areas, housing shortages. For that reason, we get such a lot of informal housing there. Overcrowding, too many people. How about pollution? Because you've got too many people there, right? So, too many vehicles on the road. You've got the pollution there, right? How about something like traffic congestion? I don't know how many of you people have been stuck in a traffic congestion from Cape Town going out at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's one of the most frustrating things to do. So that would be also an impact of your rural-urban migration. And then, of course, unemployment. You see, you've got unemployment here and unemployment there. What happens now? Why unemployment? You know, such a lot of people come to the cities. They don't find a job. Or they are not educated, trained to do the job. They've just left the farming areas, the rural areas. So now they haven't got a job and they are unemployed. So that's very important. But remember what I said? Management. Let's have a look at the strategies. How can what can be done? How can we prevent or slow down? We will never be able to prevent it really, rural-urban migration, but how can it be slowed? Firstly, advertise the town, right? I mean, there are many towns in South Africa that even I haven't heard about, right? And if you hear about the towns, I would like to go there, see what it looks like. At least you know it's advertised. The recreation facilities in the town, in towns, in urban areas, right? I'm thinking about the natural warm baths there in Montague comes up to mind immediately. People come there, right? Recreation facilities. How about tourism, right? Get people there. Now, if you've got recreation and tourism facilities, immediately jobs will be created. And then people don't need such a lot of people to move towards your urban areas. Of course, restore buildings, especially your historical buildings, and then rural schools. There are so many schools that are only primary schools, right? How about schools going up to grade 12 or to prevent people from leaving the rural areas just to attend something like schools. Now, this is your movement that I've chosen to discuss with you for two reasons. Firstly, because it's the most important movement at the moment worldwide. But secondly, that this will be in your grade 10 examination as well. So please see now already that you understand rural-urban migration. Now, if you look at this grade 10, it's easy, right? You must just know the push factors, that's easy. You must know the pull factors, that's easy. You must know what is rural urban migration, again the concept, the movement of people, right, from rural to urban areas. You must know, but when that takes place, what happens here? What's the impact? You must say, but here we've got an impact here as well. What's happening there? And then what can be done, right? You see, it's quite easy, right? And and you can score easy marks here, right? So expect a 15-mark question of rural-urban migration. As I said, this is one of the most important migrations at the moment in the world. Okay, now how about applying this to your map? Now, what I've done now here, grade 10s, is something called infographics. It's a new type of source that's been used in grade 10, grade 12 since last year to this new type of exams that you will also be writing, right? And if you can have a look at the grade 12 papers 1 and 2 of November last year, as well as the June papers 1 and 2. Now, the reason why I'm telling you to have a look at it, even though in grade 10, is look at the type of questions, see how it's been examined. And then you can expect similar questions just on your grade 10 content. Very important thing that I told you now. Now, one thing that's coming up now is something called an infographic. Now, what is an infographic? And you must know how to deal with infographic. Now, this that you see here now, this is an infographic. But before I proceed, let's have a look at what is an infographic. An infographic is a collection of images, graphs or statistics and a short text that gives an overview of a topic. Right, now have a look at this. Here we see what's an infographic. Okay, now here we've got a short text, here we've got the graph, and here we've got the map. So this is it's different sources giving you information of the same thing. That's an infographic, right? Here in this one, as I said, we use the text, we use a graph, and we use a topographic map to inform you, give you information of the same text, which is, in this case, rural-urban migration. Now, okay, let's have a look at this. When you do infographics, you must bear a few things in mind. Firstly, get an idea what the infographic is as a whole is telling you. Secondly, what are the different types of information given? Then, read the written information first and then look at the other information. Then, look for links between that. These things are all linked because it's the same topic, right? Now you are ready to answer your infographic as well. Now, here we've got our questions, and it has to do with your rural-urban migration. These are the three questions. Now, this question, grade 10s, comes from your book, your resource book that you will get. Please go to that book, do these answers, the questions, see if we can get to the answers. The first question, does the population of no-poorts show an increase or decrease according to the graph? Immediately, you know that is what I must use. I must use this part of the infographic. Can you see when I showed you what is an infographic? Can you see how important this is again? You must know what information to use to get to your answer. And in this one, luckily, here they say according to the graph. Now, while you're in grade 10, when the infographics come, when the questions that we will be asked, there will be an indication, mostly, where you will get the answer. But I can guarantee you, the further you go, you get to grade 12, you're not going to be so lucky, right? Because then the questions will become a little bit more difficult. But practice now already, right? That you know how to deal with the infographic. Okay, so that's one. The following questions, why did the town experience increased unemployment? And if you go there, you'll see there. What happened was there that there's your answer in the text that we've given to you. All right? And what happened was that the unemployment was there because no-port was used to exchange your locomotives from diesel to an electric one. Now, nowadays, it doesn't happen such a lot anymore. Well, the result is when the function of no-port as an important railway junction, when that declined, when it wasn't needed anymore, then what happened? You didn't have any work then, right? Unemployment, no more jobs, right? So that was the problem. The next one is, why, according to the map, will people leave no-port? Your answer is in the map. Now, if you look at this is the map of no-port that we've got, and what I've done here, just to show you, is that I put a few arrows here. And in the map, you will pick up the following. You will see, but employment is really not a lot of employment going on. Education, there's only 1 or 2 primary schools there. Eh? Shops, you really don't see them here. No entertainment. I think there's only a golf course over there. All right? Industries, actually, no industries here. Mining, no farming on the place. Resources, very few. So if you can remember now what I started off with, your push and pull factors, here you see all your push factors, right? Where people, just have a look at this again. See, and I've put in the arrow here to show you that people are forced to move away from that. That's why the question, why, according to the topographic, will people leave no-port? Now, grade 10, that brings us to the end of our first part of our revision. That was now the work regarding population. That was term 3 work, and that was so we've covered most of the part of our revision now. You know that term 4 is much shorter. I think we've only got 2 or 3 weeks, and therefore the next part will also be much shorter. It has to do with water resources. Now, as we've done with the population, we'll just firstly have a quick overview of the topics that we will be discussing now. Now, the first topic will be water in the world. A very short topic, water management in South Africa, and I can promise you that is the crux of everything. Right? You must expect a question of water management in South Africa. And then I'm also going to have a look at floods. These will be the three topics that I've chosen to do the revision on. Right, the first topic is water in the world, and this is very, very, very easy. If you look at water, you actually have three forms of water, and I mean these are things that you've learned in primary school already. So water, of course, is a liquid. That is the middle diagram here. Two things can happen with the water. Either you can cool it off or you can heat it. So let's have a look. Water that is that completely cooled off below freezing point, then you get ice, which is a solid. Remember, water is a liquid, right? And if you heat the water to the boil, steam or gas will escape from the pot, and then, of course, that will be steam or water vapor. If you don't believe me, put on your kettle, and as the steam comes out, just hold your hand there or cold a plate or whatever, and you will see the droplets condensing there. So it's water that has just in a different gassy form. So this is very easy. When they ask these questions, grade 10s, it will be more short questions of the different forms of water. But what's very important is this, the water cycle. And you must know this, grade 10. It's very, very important, the water cycle. The first thing that you must know is what is the water cycle. Again, concept, okay? Must be able to define. Let's have a look at it. The water cycle describes the journey of water from the Earth's surface to the atmosphere and back. Now that's an interesting thing. If this is the Earth's surface and we've got water here, right? What is the journey? What is the water cycle? It goes up in the atmosphere and it comes back and back to the sea again, right? So that is called your water cycle. So let's have a look at this. Everything starts here with the sun heating the lakes or the sea or the oceans, and what happens is that water evaporates from the lakes and the oceans. But you also get transpiration from the vegetation. And as it moves into the atmosphere, it will condense to form clouds, right? After this has been formed, precipitation will occur. Now, it will be either in the form of rain or it can be in the form of snow. So now, can you see the water left by means of steam, right? Water vapor, it left here, and now it's returning back by means of rain. But as it rains, what happens then? This, one of two things happen. All this water falls in the streams and it goes back to the rivers and the lakes, or infiltration here and has been stored as groundwater. So that is in short what the water cycle is all about. And if you look at our next slide, I just added a little bit of movement to that, just to show you what really happens here. Here you see, there we've got the evaporation and the transpiration, condensation, right? Here we've got the clouds that form. Here we've got the precipitation. And here we see it's moving back. Here we've got the infiltration there. But what I want you to see here, can you remember what we said? What is the water cycle? It's a journey of water as it leaves the earth and it returns again. So see what's happening here. Here's it leaving the earth, right? And here's the full cycle being completed as it returns back to earth. So that is very important, just an interesting way of showing you what happens when you have a look at the water cycle there. Now, in your revision booklet, I've put in this activity. Now, I'm not going to give you the answers because I want you to do this on your own. Okay, it's very easy. All you need to do is we've got the diagram here, And then I've put all the labels here. Every label has a block that it must go into, right? And so if you have a look at this thing, grade 10s, what's going to happen here is in the exams, your teacher can either ask you to define each of these things, right? Or they can, for instance, put the A, B, C, D, or whatever letter there and ask you what process is happening there. Now, to know what the process is, you must know what process goes in what block. Okay, you can't make that mistake. You can't, for instance, say something like precipitation here. Can't do that, right? Or condensation there. You must know the cycle. You must know the process, the order of the process, right, as it takes place, and the different processes must be on the correct place here in your water cycle. Then you will be able to gain full marks for that. Okay, so that was water in the world. Now, what we're going to do now, grade 10s, is we are going to look at water management in South Africa. And as I've said, when it comes to water resources, this is it, right? This is the most important part when it comes to water. Can you remember I also said, what is one of the questions that geographers ask? How can it be managed, right? And here we've got a heading that directly says that, talks to the management of a certain thing. And in this case, water in South Africa. You know, if you don't have a question of at least of 15 marks of water management in South Africa, I don't think that would be a fully question paper, honestly, right? So see that you understand this, right? There are only something like 4 topics in this one, so there's a possibility that there can even come 2 questions from the section for water management in South Africa. So important is it. Remember, every question counts 15 marks. So if here can come 2 questions, 30 marks, very little work, and you can score those marks. Okay, right. So let's have a look at water management in South Africa. Now, the first thing that I would like to show you is where does the water in South Africa go? You know, South Africa's water huge. We've got agriculture 62%, energy 2%, forestry 3%, industries 3%, mining 3%, and we've got domestic 27%. This is basic where all our water is needed and what is done with our water here in South Africa. Very, very important. They can give you a map, a pie chart like this, and ask you certain questions. Okay, now this grade 12 is very important. What are the factors influencing the availability of water in South Africa? Now, grade 10s, you know that our country is classified as a half-dry country. We don't get a lot of rain here. That's why we've got to build dams, right? Very important. We don't have enough water. Our rainfall isn't that high. So let's have a look at the factors influencing the availability of water in South Africa. Firstly, the rainfall distribution. Now, if you look at the rainfall distribution of South Africa, then you will know that you get most of your rainfall here, right? And you get at the East Coast and less there. So you get from here lots of rainfall and it gets less and less and less. You know why? Can you remember that when you looked at the topic, factors influencing temperature in South Africa? You saw that we had a warm sea current here and a cold sea current there, right? Now your warm sea current, what happens there? More condensation. And that is why you have much more rain here than on that side. Okay, right. So that is firstly our rainfall distribution. Secondly, droughts. Now, you, especially the learners here in Western Cape, you will know and you have experienced what a drought is really like. I mean, a few years ago, we had to use our water very, very carefully. You had to shower 2 minute showers, all right? You had to recycle your shower water and put it in the toilet or something like that. These are the problems that we had because of droughts, right? So that's another factor. Then mining. You know, South Africa is a mining country. Huge mines that we've got. The only problem with mining is that mining needs a lot of water. Okay, and so that's another factor influencing the availability of water in South Africa. Then increase of population. Our population in South Africa has grown, and can you remember what we said? What's the problem? More people, more resources needed. And yeah, water. Immediately, you've got pressure on your water resources if your population keeps on growing and growing all the time. And us being a half-dry country, a semi-arid country, we're going to have those type of problems. Then increase in urbanization, all right? Resulting from rural urban migration, people moving towards the cities where much more water is needed and much more water is used. Then increase in industries. Now, if you look at industries, people really need, industries really need lots of water. Sometimes it's used to cool the different machinery there, or it's used as a raw material for the product that they are manufacturing there, right? So increase of industries. And then agricultural water poisoning. You know, we've got huge problems that because of our agriculture, right? You get this insecticides that we've got there, and it ends up in the water, and it's very, very, very dangerous for us. And then, of course, this worldwide one, climate change. And I'm sure if you look at climate change and see what's happening all over the world regarding droughts and everything, we had our deal also about a fair deal about share about of climate change. This is impacting huge on rainfall and of course of the availability of water also here in our country. Okay, now this is very important, great things. Please see that you can answer the paragraph type question of this, right? And also that you can apply it on diagrams. Now, the next thing that we would like to have a look at is something called free basic water. Now, what is free basic water and how does it work? Now, let me just read this to you. The free basic water policy is implemented to guarantee free water for all the people of South Africa. Basic water is said to be 25 liters a day for every person in the country. And then, every home in South Africa should be within 200 meters of a tap supplying clean and safe drinking water. Now, if you ever look at this great things, of course, in many instances, this is not the case. If you are lucky to have your own home, you will know that there are, 5, 6, if not more, 7 taps in the house. But if you go to informal settlements, then it's a total different story. Have a look at this. Then this means the idea is that every home should be within 200 meters of a tap supplying clean and safe and drinking water. So that is not really where we want to be, but at least it's a start when it comes to basic water. Now, the problem is that providing free basic water is time-consuming, and it's a very, very expensive process. Now, why is that the case? All right. Now, let us just quickly have a look at the challenges to provide free basic water. Now, you've got challenges in the rural areas, and you've got challenges in the urban areas. Now, in the rural areas, well, lack of services. You know, the infrastructure, that's the taps and the pipes, must be provided. Then the distances are large, and it takes time and it costs money. And then the other problem is that people are spread out across the country. So this is difficult to really provide free basic water to your rural areas. And your urban areas also. Firstly, the large amount of informal settlements. I've just mentioned that in the previous slide. Old infrastructure of taps, pipes, large maintenance costs, shortage of skilled engineers, poor payment for services, people who do not pay for their services, and then an increase in urban population. Now, all these factors really, challenges, really impact on the ability to provide water here in South Africa. Now, I've already mentioned that we haven't got enough water spread evenly over the country. So what can be done? Important thing that can be done is the interbasin transfer of water. Now, what is the interbasin transfer of water? This is the following. To move water from areas where good supplies, to where it is needed. Now, let's have a look at this. If we have an area that, say here, that's got so much water, right, that they won't be able to actually use the water, right? To prevent that water from being lost or flowing to the sea or whatever, and we've got another area here, right? What does this say? It says that here you've got two areas. By the one you've got good supply of water, the river basin there, and by the other basin, no or very, very little water. So what's happening now is, can't we pump the water from here to there? Then people can use it. Now, it's happening in South Africa at the moment. Let's have a look at this. The first one is called the Tugela Fall project. And what's happening here is that water from the Spionkop Dam here in the Tugela River is pumped to the Sterkfontein Dam in the water for the PVV areas. Now, if you can remember, in a previous slide, I've shown you that the rainfall is much higher in this area. But if you look at Gauteng here, this is where the water is needed, more water is needed. So these people have a lot of water, and we've got short flowing rivers to the sea. That water can get lost. So what's happening is it's been pumped to Gauteng, that it can be used there. We've got the Orange River project here. The Orange Fish Tunnel, it's about in that area, was built to transfer river to the Fish River for irrigation purposes. And also hydroelectricity is also generated in this project. Then we've got the Berg River scheme. Water is transferred from the Theewaterskloof Dam to the Sonderend River and to the Berg and Easter River that we've got here in this area. And then the last one, the Lesotho Highlands project. Water is supplied from here in Lesotho to Gauteng also. So we've got two projects supplying water to Gauteng. So you see, this is perhaps one way in which water shortages in one area can be solved. Now, by doing that, dams must be built. Right? And if you look at dams, the first question is, but what advantages are dams for a country? Let's have a look at that. Remember, we are still busy with water management in South Africa, and dams is an important way of water management. Now, if you look at the map of South Africa and you see all the dams there, immediately you should think, but why are we have got such a short? We wouldn't have needed such a lot of dams if we had a decent rainfall. We have not, so dams must be built. Okay, so let's have a look at the advantage of building dams. Firstly, it provides an all-year round supply of water for farms, industries and settlement. It controls the flow of rivers, which helps to reduce the risk of flooding. That's interesting. If a dam, when the water is dammed there, right, then means lower downstream, you won't get flooding because most of the water would be in the dams there. Right? Then it stores a river from one river basin, enabling to be transferred to another basin. That's exactly what we've done now in the previous slide. Provide sources for hydroelectricity, and creates lakes that can be used for recreation. These dams can also be used for recreation. So those are the advantages. But the disadvantages of dams are the following. They often cover large areas of good farmland. Right? Dams are very, very expensive to build. And then as the river flows into a dam, it can be filled up with sand and soil, right? And this sand and the soil must be cleared sometimes from the dams. Yeah, we've also got a problem, especially here in South Africa also, high evaporation from dams. So what you've got is you've got your dams there, but you've got one problem. As soon as you've got water, it's going to evaporate. And it's going to be returned to Earth, definitely, as we've seen in the water cycle. But what's the chance it's going to be returned to that specific dam? Right? So that is what we've got, evaporation. And then ecosystems can be destroyed when dams are built there. And then some dams can increase the risk of flooding. I mean, if a dam wall bursts or you've got problems there, you are lost. I mean, then there's millions of liters coming down the river that can cause severe damage by means of flooding. Now, the following one is, but if we have the dams, for what can dams be used? What are dams used for? This is a very important question, all right? So let's have a look what dams are used for. Firstly, it's water for irrigation, all right? You've got a farm, you can use it for irrigation. Secondly, it can be used to generate hydroelectricity. Then, recreation. Look at all these lovely boats there. Look at that. It controls flooding. And then, of course, drinking water. Right? So those are the most important users of dams. But now, great things. What if they give you a dam in the examination and they ask you, what is that dam used for? Especially when it comes to your map work. Let's have a look at this question. Here we've got the full flay dam. Right? Now, let's see for what is the full flay dam used. Now, great things, let me just cut off here for a second or two. You know that why you have problems in the exams answering this question? Because you don't know what to look at to get to the answer. Right? And if you know what to look to get to the answer, means you must know your work. Let's have a look. If you know what dams are used for, irrigation, drinking water, recreation, right? Then at least you know these are the three things that this dam can be possibly used for. But how do I know? Let's have a look at this, right? For irrigation, right? Your canals and your furrows. If you see that, look at that there. Here you see both of them here. So this means that the water of this dam is used for irrigation, right? What about drinking water? How do I know that this dam is used for drinking water, right? You must look for purification facilities. Is the water being treated close to the dam, right? And let's have a look at this one. Here we see, here's a word, filtration plant, full flay water treatment plant. Immediately you see, but this means that water is purified here and can be used for drinking as drinking water. Then the last one, recreation. Now, if I want to know recreation, look for the following. Is there a hotel? Is there a caravan park? And if you want to know, just take and 2 centimeters here around the dam. Look at this 2 centimeters. 2 centimeters gives you 1 kilometer. And see what's going on there. That could be an indication of for what that dam is used with regard to recreation. Let's see what's happening here. Have a look at this. Here we've got full flay nature reserve. Here we've got full flay nature reserve. Here we've got a yacht club. Here we've got a caravan park. So this dam has also been used for recreation. Now, grade 10, this is also in your booklet, right? The exact map I've put in the in the booklet, where we show you how to look at what this dam is used for. That's very, very important. And please see that you are in a position to answer this, right? Especially your large reservoirs, your large dams, right? Your farm dams, mostly, irrigation purposes. But if you've got a large dam like that, look for other things that can be an indication for what the dam is used for. Okay, our next one has to do with strategies towards sustainable use of water. Again in grade 10, look at the word there, strategies. Like what can be done? And I've showed you over and over. Remember your 2 questions, and I'm hammering on that because it's so important. What is the impact? Strategies, or what can be done? Let's have a look at this. Towards sustainable use of water, what can be done? Firstly, save water in households, best irrigation practices, fix your leaking pipes, collect rainwater, these JoJo tanks and stuff that we used in the droughts. Water-wise, use indigenous plants, don't use other plants that use lots of water. And then, of course, water must be recycled. Now, you can add to that list. See if you can add to that list, right? To get to really to the sustainable use of water. Right, our last topic has to do with floods or flooding. Now, the first thing, if you look at flooding, you want to know, but what is a flood? Okay, so let's have a look at what is a flood. All right, a flood occurs when a river has more water than the river's channel can hold. The water then flows over the banks of the river into the land next to the river. Right. So, if you've got a river and that's the channel of the river and it rains so hard that the water cannot be carried by the river alone, what's going to happen? Right? It's going to overflow the banks, and that's a flood. Right. Now, this happened a few months ago in South Africa. I don't know if you watched the news, flooding in KZN, KwaZulu-Natal, in April of this year. And just see what these floods have done. All right? Look at the houses they've destroyed. Look at this year. All right? Even containers it could pick up. Seems what water looks like. How strong, what the power of water really is, right? So this is. It was here, more than 400 people lost their lives in the flooding in just a few months ago in April here in KwaZulu-Natal. Now the question is, but what are the causes? What are the causes of floods? Now you have your physical causes and you have the human causes. Firstly, steep gradient. If you've got a steep gradient, water can move much faster now, and that of course flooding. And obviously the second one is a high rainfall, snow that melts, and remember tropical cyclones, right? Hurricanes cause flood here in sometimes it hits South Africa, the eastern coast of South Africa. And then, of course, tsunamis. Now, you should know tsunamis, right? You've done that in geomorphology, and you saw how earthquakes. It's one of the things caused by earthquakes, tsunamis, and I mean that's very, very, very dangerous. The Boxing Day tsunami, in the Indian Ocean, killed more than something like 250,000-300,000 people. Now, the human causes of flooding, deforestation. Now, let's first have a look at this. You must understand this great thing. If you've got an open space of ground and you haven't got anything on it, whether it's trees, whether it's vegetation, whether it's grass or whatever, if it's an open field, then it's going to be prone to flooding, because water can move much easier there, right? So deforestation like that, it actually is a cause. Poor water management, and then houses built on floodplains. Now, if you've got a river here, and you build your house here, I mean, then you must expect that you can get flooding. So you're going to learn a little bit more of floodplains in grade 12. But this is just the adjacent to your river. You get your floodplain. So if the river is in flood, then and your house is there, you haven't got a chance. Then, of course, urban development, right? Urban development, the reason why urban development, sometimes you haven't got sufficient stormwater drainage. And that was the case in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal a few months ago. And the water couldn't flow away quickly as possible. And if it hits a town, if it hits a city, you're in trouble. And then, of course, population pressure. More people. Can you see again back to population overcrowding? And then what's going to happen? You're going to remove the natural vegetation, and you're going to build on there, and of course, flooding will be a consequence. Now, how can flooding be managed? And again, grade 10s, I don't know how many times I've reminded you of how managed, impact, how managed. Right? And if you ever look at this again, at this revision that we done today, you can go and check how many times I've mentioned that. And there's a reason for that, because it's the most important thing. Remember again, what is the impact and how managed? Here we go. How can floods be managed? Now, you get floods in urban areas, right? So here we've got urban areas. Here you can see the housing, the cars, so this is definitely urban. Do not build in the floodline, of course, or close to a river or close to a coastline. You must have enough stormwater drains, green belts in cities, areas covered with like parks, covered with vegetation. Maintain wetlands. The wetlands usually absorb your water, and this is very important, a flood warning system that can warn people, here's a flood on its way, get out, evacuate. Very important. And then the rural areas, right? What can be done there? Look at this farming here on the banks of the river, right? No farming next to the banks of the river. Do not overgraze. Always contour plow, right? Now, what is contour to plowing? If you've got a slope here, right? Don't plow up and down the slope. What's going to happen? The water is going to come and just go down that slope. You must plow with the contours of the slope, meaning that the water can't really flood them. Remove alien vegetation from the river's bank, and then flood prevention dams. Of course, we've spoken about that when we talked about dams. And then in informal settlements, no informal settlements on the banks of rivers. Raise your floor above ground level, right? Don't build your informal settlements. People build informal of what material ever, and then they've got their floor there at ground level. Lift it a little bit, right, that the water can't come in. And then be prepared during the rainy season. Grade 10s, expect a paragraph type question of this. This is very, very, very important. Now, grade 10, that brings us to the end of our revision for term 3 and 4. As I've mentioned to you, when I started off this revision, this is the easier work, right? You can do very, very well in this, and I hope that if you look at this, view this presentation, that you will really, it will really help you to get much better marks. Please again, don't forget, your revision booklets will be on your way to a school shortly. It should be there. If you don't get it at school, it's also on the e-portal of the WCED, of Western Cape Education Department. Just go to there. In fact, I've put it on there about 2 weeks ago, two days ago. It is there, and you will have access to the revision booklet of this lesson that I've just shared with you. Thank you for that. Good luck for the exam, and until next time, take care.